diamond, shine bright like a diamond. So shine bright.
This majestic gown made Rihanna the talk of the town at the 2015 Met Gala. This was also how most people learned of the name Guo Pei. I caught up with a designer at her rose studio in Beijing a year after this epic red carpet moment. She tells me she was absolutely astonished when she saw Rihanna had chosen to wear her colossal dress weighing a whopping 55 pounds. But a close-up look, and the answer is in the intricately hand-embroidered patterns overlaying the silk dress. While Rihanna gave a new lease on life to this hidden gem that had been tucked away for 10 years in Guo's studio, she also gave Guo the needed exposure to be invited to showcase at Paris Haute Couture Week.
今年1月份，您的设计在巴黎时装周首次亮相。
Your work debuted at Paris Haute Couture Week in January of this year. You're also the first Chinese designer to showcase at Paris Haute Couture Week.
做这个准备过程中，
Did you do anything differently in terms of the design, organization, or the preparation process for this show?
我虽然是法国高定工会第一个邀请的，甚至亚洲设计师。
Although I was the first Chinese designer and the first Asian designer invited by the French Trade Union of High Fashion, I'm also the designer who is the farthest away from Paris of those invited.
就是你知道，我的距离其实产生了
This
很大的
distance created a lot of obstacles for me. For instance, in terms of transportation, I literally shipped the entire stage to Paris.
地面的玻璃，因为
It's a very foreign place to me.
像我
I'm used to being in control of how things will turn out.
自己来把控结果。
And when I'm uncertain, I would always choose the most labor-intensive way to make sure all bases are covered.
就是我一切都做到了，其实就是我太不了解。
Yet, in fact, the hardest thing for me was that I didn't know anything about the place at all. I had no idea about their standards, so before I went to Paris, I was very apprehensive.
What exactly were you apprehensive about?
恐惧的是大家接受不接受你，喜欢不喜欢。
Whether people will accept you, whether they will like you, that's what it is. Whether they'd understand what I'm trying to say.
所以在
Before this, I'd never thought about going international, let alone going to Paris Fashion Week.
想过到国际上去发展。2年前的时候，我去巴黎，
2 years ago, when I went to Paris, I met someone who is very respected in the profession.
是我们整个那天下午。
She asked me, Pei, do you want to know how we evaluate an haute couture designer? Well, this was right at the end of our conversation. I was dumbfounded. I said, I absolutely do. She said, there are 3 important aspects.
重要的3点。他说，并不是那些媒体
And it's not what you hear in the media about whether you have an office in Paris, how many shows you do a year, and how many pieces you have in each show, etc. All of those can be changed,
那些都是可以改
but
变的。
only
它永远
these
不会
3 aspects are constant.
然后第一点呢，是你的
The first one is your purpose. I said to myself, I couldn't agree more because the purpose comes from your intent, which dictates how far you go in life. Purpose is so important.
目的太重要了。他说，第二点是你的贡献。
The second aspect, she said, is
我
contribution.
还在想，我算有贡献吗？
Well, then I asked myself, have I made any contribution? I said to myself, I'm the first in China to do haute couture. I did the Beijing Olympic Games. I'm also pushing for Chinese wedding gowns. But she said, we don't look at what you've done before, but what you are capable of in the future.
我说今后的贡献
By future contribution, I think she means one's value.
是你有没有让他们接纳你的价值，你为他们能带来什么？
我觉得最
The
有
most
价值
valuable thing is to be the best you can be and make the most out of what you have. Once you've done that, you've found your most valuable asset.
显出来了。
没错，其实我们做人就是做自己嘛。
That's right. Be yourself. That's the lesson of life. And she said there's the third aspect.
这是最重要的一点啊。然后我心里在想，一定是
I thought it was going to be design, but we're designers. But she said, it's your craftsmanship.
是你的工艺。他说，我到
She explained to me that craftsmanship can only be attained with dedication of time.
时间是必须
There's no shortcut.
啊，而且但我心里又很
But then I asked her, isn't design important as well?
难道不重要吗？然后我记得当时那老太太就
She smiled and said to me,
设计嘛，
design is for the media to talk about. There's no good or bad design. There's only design that you like or you don't.
她当时说出这句
When she said that, my heart literally went from up here to here.
对呀，
Of course, design is your expression, but as long as you're truthful, When you're too occupied with pleasing others and when you drift from what is truthful to you, your design cannot touch people. Because of this very conversation we had, this very moment, I decided that I was going to go to Paris.
在巴黎作秀可以说是一直以来都是我的梦想。
Consisting of 43 pieces created over the course of 1 year, the Paris Haute Couture collection entitled Courtyard draws from Guo Pei's 30-year design career. Yet it's the first time that she has designed with the market in mind, a departure for the tenacious single-minded couturier who saw her creations as gifts to herself. Join us again for part 2 of the interview as we find out why Time magazine calls her one of the 100 most influential people of 2016.